In 1968, I was appointed Civil Defense Director. One of the first items that surfaced that needed immediate addressing was improving radio communications. There was very little in the way of common communications in the county. There was a fire network, independent avenue base stations, and provided communication services for the ambulances. At that point in time, there was no common law enforcement communications channels and no local government communications channels. Some of the upgrading under the Civil Defense Organization of radio communications that was taking place in the event before the Communications Control Center was established. From the beginning of this, the very active participation of the county commissioners was foremost in achieving these goals. Some of the radio rooms around other portions of the state were all labeled as civil defense radio rooms, not necessarily county control communication centers or 911 centers. 911 was not even on the radar at this point in time. A separate program was established to develop and build out a mobile air cascade unit, with the caveat that in the original planning stage, the mobile air cascade unit would also become a mobile command center. A lot of volunteer time and effort was given to this project. Funds were raised in the county for the mobile air cascade unit. The county commissioners held several meetings across the county in which they solicited input from the fire departments, law enforcement, ambulance services, and most township supervisors and municipality representatives. At which time the county commissioners laid out the agenda that they would, in fact, be establishing a county communications center to handle emergency traffic and dispatch resources as needed in the event of emergency. The advent of 911, National Reporting System for Emergencies, was only in its infancy. We were restricted at that point in time to either operator assistance or the use of one common telephone number for emergency reporting. That number was adopted by the county for use to start centralized dispatching capabilities. The county commissioners made an additional statement indicating that as of January 1st, 1970, they would be initiating the 24-hour dispatching capability of emergency services through the communications center. This is the communications center as it looked in 1970, 71. As you can see, it was set up for single dispatching capabilities. In this particular case, the picture is shown one of the first dispatchers.
Well, I started with the county in August of 1986. Essentially, I've seen every technological change and been involved with it for the last 35 years. Some of the largest changes I would say is, we had no 911 at the time. Depending on what night it was, I could work by myself on night shift. We worked 8-hour shifts then instead of 12 hours as we do now. When we had an emergency for Fulton County, we would dial this number and it would go to the gas station in McConnellsburg. And that's who we answered and processed the calls for Fulton County. Call volume has increased significantly. As I mentioned earlier, we didn't dispatch at the time when I started. We didn't dispatch Chambersburg Police. We didn't dispatch Waynesboro Police. But now we are the central receiving agency and the dispatching point for everybody in the county with the exception of the state police. But the growth just really hasn't stopped. Growth and increase of calls, growth in our technology from, the very first thing that we changed was we were receiving phone numbers. So in other words, if you called 911, we would see your phone number. And then the next step to that was location, where are you calling from? And then of course, that just developed into a different kind of a 911 system. And then we integrated mapping in and wireless phones, started to increase in their availability. People were dialing 911 on their cell phones, and then we needed to find where they were physically standing and dialing from. So the growth still continues to this day. I mean, we have been able to provide a very good public service to the county and their residents, but it's not something that I stop on or we stop looking at. What can we do next to provide better service?
And we owe so much to all those people before us who had the forethought to develop this and create this organization. And there are so many great men and women who have served here before as dispatchers, and in conjunction, the partnership that we have with all the local firefighters, police officers, and EMS crew, it's just been great to see how all these things have come together to protect the citizens and visitors of Franklin County.